Headline reads, Lights Out. Nordstrom store shuts doors for good with more closures on the way after its CEO makes an admission about its future, specifically in Portland, Oregon. What's he say? And why are these stores closing? Let's get into it. Here we go. So I cover my fair share of store closures. Closed, gone, right? It's an indicator of the health, the vibrancy of a city, of a community, of a business environment. And I focus a lot on business because that's my background as a business guy. Well, does it make money? Does it not make money? What are the things impacting it? And we're seeing a bunch of closures, and we've seen closures, heavy closures since the pandemic. But since the pandemic, and that seems to be kind of the line in the sand, before the pandemic, after the pandemic, things just went wildly downhill for a lot of retail because, we didn't have people out shopping in droves. Stores were closed. And then when they did open up, you had homelessness, drugs, and safety issues in a lot of these communities where things are closing down. Today is no different. We've got Missouri, we've got California, we've got Oregon being covered, and we're going to go through a bunch. Let's focus on Nordstrom right now. Nordstrom is pulling out of 2 prime shopping centers this week, and more uncertainty looms after a blunt warning from its CEO. Shoppers in Missouri and California will be the first to feel the hit, with both stores shutting down before the end of August. This week, in fact, the week I'm recording this, the St. Louis Galleria in St. Louis will lose its Nordstrom location on August 24th, while Santa Monica Place in California will see its store close on August 26th. I have not followed the St. Louis Galleria in St. Louis. I have followed and I've recorded the Santa Monica Place in California. Santa Monica shop is long anchored the 3rd Street Promenade district, but the area has been struggling since the pandemic. Now, we know Santa Monica has had a massive, massive influx of homeless people. People whacked out of their mind on drugs. People just out of their mind in general and on drugs combination, you name it, whatever. Nordstrom, in general, just screams, come shoplift at me. Because it's high-end stuff. You're in these areas where people, security guards are not allowed to chase people out the door. So you've got people targeting Nordstrom in particular because there's always a secondary market for stolen Nordstrom stuff. I've shopped at Nordstrom. Nordstrom is a local Seattle company. The Nordstroms are well known in the Bellevue community and the East Side community. It's a Pacific Northwest started and still run business, but it's all over the country, right? It's all over the country. Nordstrom brand, it kind of signifies, hey, we're pretty high end. We're not the highest, but we're pretty high end. And they used to have a return policy that was just second to none. You could take stuff back forever. I've had Nordstrom clothes that have lasted forever and ever and ever. So it's one of those stores that I shop at. And is it expensive? Yeah, it is. It is not cheap. And you walk into a Nordstrom and you are experiencing a shopping experience, right? You're just like, oh, good Lord, I forgot to dress up. I didn't put on my tie. I didn't put on my whatever to come here. This is embarrassing. I'm wearing a t-shirt. What are we doing here? It's one of those, right? Where you oh, geez, look at my shoes. They're crappy looking compared to everybody else that's in here. What do we got going on? You're in Nordstrom. It's one of those stores. In Missouri, company officials said renewing the lease at the Galleria would not be profitable. All right. So within literally 2 sentences, let's get out my yellow pointer. Santa Monica shop struggling in the area since the pandemic. Okay. So you got homelessness, you got nut jobs, you got whack jobs running around, bunch of shoplifting happening. In Missouri, company officials, Galleria would not be profitable signing the new lease. So are we literally blaming the rise in the rent at the Galleria? Or what we saying? Are we blaming that when in fact we should be focusing on maybe some shoplifting, maybe some safety issues? There's really nothing online at the St. Louis Galleria indicating, hey, shoplifting is rampant. However, when these stores get shut down and they blame a lease, that ain't it. Because, the lease isn't so far out of line with their corporate structure that they can't pay it. So there is something happening where they're like, well, at the lease level and with what's going on with our bottom line and safety issues. That is what a lot of folks are not talking about. Kroger came right out, and I'm going to talk about it in a little bit at the end of this podcast. Kroger has come out and said, hey, we've got restrictions on how we do business, and you've got massive amounts of shoplifting happening. So that's why we're closing down 6 stores in the state of Washington, 6 stores in Western Washington. And one of those is just a handful of miles from me here. And that one doesn't make any sense to me either. And that's why if a company has the ability to analyze all of their stores, and if they got one that's got, something goofy going on with it, like, hey, we got a lease coming up, we can blame that on the fact that we are being robbed absolutely blind. And we've got these other safety factors, whatever that might be, that maybe their insurance has gone through the roof. But, retail in general has really struggled, right? With the whole online, hey, I'm going to buy everything at Nordstrom, through Amazon online and just get it dropped off at my home. I mean, yeah, why would these stores with these huge footprints, why would they be thriving in today's market? They aren't. And so the stores at the very bottom are being cherry-picked for closure. And it's because they've got a combination of issues. And when something comes up like this, it's the lease. It's the lease. It's the area has been struggling. It's not us. It's help us help you, right? Nordstrom spokesperson told USA Today, we believe we'd be best able to serve customers in each region by leveraging our surrounding stores and through our digital channels. What I always talk about is it's been a difficult decision to close down this individual store. We thought about it long and hard. We care about our employees. We want to make sure that they have the ability to get a job at one of our surrounding stores and our digital channels. Shop with us at Nordstrom.com. But just not at this store in St. Louis, not in this store in California, because those are some stores that we are not willing to keep open. We're not really going to tell you why, but you take a look at the address and you go, okay, they're being robbed blind. They've got, and if that isn't the primary reason, you've got some safety issues going on. They're in areas that have been hard hit. We know that is the factor in 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. Santa Monica just has a bunch of whacked out nut jobs wandering around, right? They got homeless people out of their mind on drugs doing crazy stuff. So, the official corporate speak for why they're closing these down, they're not being very transparent. But it's because they're operating stores nearby. They've got stores going in the city, in the county, whatever. So they don't want to absolutely go torched earth and just, well, this is a terrible area. You got a terrible mayor. You got a terrible governor. Oh, we're pulling out. No, they can't do that because they've got other locations that aren't as bad and they want to keep doing business. So look at the lease. Oh, good Lord, that's an expensive. Really? The lease? Okay. I mean, all right. Okay. No replacement has been lined up for the Santa Monica store, but in St. Louis, Dick's House of Sports, a retail store, is expected to take over the spot. All right. So here's in St. Louis. Maybe it is that they are reworking their demographics and recognizing we do not have as many shoppers. And, our profit margin, Nordstrom's clothes are expensive. Nordstrom is not a Dick's sporting goods and Dick's House of Sports. Dick's House of Sports is not cheap. It's by, standards of sporting goods store. I think Dick's is, it's got some good stuff. It's got some name brand stuff. And I do go there for, what did I buy? A pair of sunglasses, couple of weeks ago. And I'll buy some rafting equipment, that kind of thing. Sometimes I'll get some shorts, whatever I need. But it is not particularly cheap, right? But it's nowhere near as expensive as Nordstrom is either. Company has provided promise to help employees, yada, yada. Decisions like this are never easy. We understand the impact. They're trying to go down that road of, we do not really want to close this store, but our hand is being forced by that we're not really going to disclose, because if they did, it just wouldn't. It's like calling somebody out, right? Hey, all the shoplifting you got going on isn't helping our bottom line. Whereas Kroger literally came right out and said that. And that was interesting. In St. Louis, 135 workers will lose their jobs, although they were given a separation plan. Okay. Galleria closure will not affect the nearby West County Nordstrom or Nordstrom Rack stores in Brentwood and Manchester, which remain open. Isn't that interesting? Nearby, very nearby. Yep, those stay open. This one, not so much. And that's the same drill with the Fred Meyer here in Redmond, Washington. You go a couple of miles to the south and west, just over my right-hand shoulder, and you've got another Fred Meyer that is doing pretty well and is not being shut down. Couple of miles apart, different demographics, different demand components. Yeah. Corporate is basically stating, they're robbing us blind. We're shutting the Redmond one down. They're shutting a handful of others too. That is Fred Meyer. That is not Nordstrom. But at the same time, the company's leadership is raising alarms about the future in Portland, Oregon. Now, Portland is on the struggle bus. Portland, from a commercial standpoint, major struggle bus. Seattle, Washington, similar major struggle bus. And it's because your street conditions are not conducive to a Nordstrom. Period. Very difficult. I email with folks who work at Nordstrom in downtown Seattle, and I hear their horror stories on a regular basis. If Nordstrom wasn't such an anchor tenant, wasn't such an anchor business within Seattle, I think they would have pulled out from the downtown store long ago. But it's like the mothership, right? You can't leave Seattle. But their store in Bellevue isn't closing down. Bellevue Square isn't closing down. That's interesting. Mayor Keith Wilson told a community meeting he had spoken directly with Nordstrom CEO Eric Nordstrom about the city's retail crisis. And we've talked about this. I met with Eric Nordstrom the other day, and he says, Keith, I don't know how long we can continue to operate in Portland, the mayor said. I mean, the fact that the mayor brought that up, props to him, because he didn't really need to. But he's trying to clean up the city at the same time. So he needs the impetus to be able to say, and I think he has more information he's not disclosing, the mayor. When the mayor says, CEO of Nordstrom, Keith, I don't know how long we can continue to operate in Portland. That is literally writing on the wall. We are closing down the Portland Nordstrom store. That to me, that's what I would interpret from that, given what else is going on in other cities similar to it. Comments come as Portland has seen major national chains exit amid rising theft and safety concerns. And I think there is a real insurance component to this. And that insurance component is based off of years of safety issues, patterns of safety issues. Hey, you had a guy chasing people around inside the store with the machete who turns out was on drugs, homeless, and was a convicted felon. Not conducive to keeping Nordstrom open. Not conducive to keeping Kroger open. Got same liability issues. Somebody gets killed, somebody gets maimed, somebody gets whatever. You got a bunch of, loss prevention happening, a loss happening, people stealing stuff. You look at your stats, you're going to go to that store at the bottom of the list and go, We're closing that one. We're closing that one. So the fact that Portland is still open in Nordstrom Portland is still open to me is like, it's because it's a Pacific Northwest store, guaranteed. And they don't want to pull out because it sends that message of, oh, Portland, you are cooked. Target closed 3 stores in the city last year in Portland, while outdoor retailer REI shut its Pearl District location, citing repeated break-ins. Portland, there was a, not far from the Pearl District location, there was an area where I understood that you could get a tent, an REI tent, you could get all the stuff, people would shoplift it, and underneath an overpass, there was an area where you had an open air market for brand new REI goods. And so the store, basically said, we can't do it. We're no can do. Nordstrom already axed 16 stores in 2020. More rack locations are slated to open from fall 2025. And so what you're seeing happen is you're seeing an industry that has struggled, and the stores that get closed are the ones that have the most issues, are making the least money, have the most exposure, have the highest probability of having safety issues. And what big corporation like a Nordstrom wants to have a blemish on their market? Like, well, yeah, we were doing pretty good, and then we had a murder in the store. Oof, yeah, not good. And, did you have signs indicating that this kind of behavior was happening on the streets? How many podcasts have we done that in Portland? A lot. Macy's abandoned its downtown flagship back in 2017, and theft reports have also plagued the Nordstrom Rack location downtown. Still talking about Portland. During early 2023, the Nordstrom Rack store is one of the city's top 3 businesses for burglary and theft reports. Doesn't take a genius to figure out. Okay, all right. Even though Nordstrom is saying no plan changes, for now, down the road, closed. We continue to work with the city to explore how we can best serve our customers and the Portland community. Okay, that is just basically stating to city officials, get your act together, because you are in that, tumultuous area of we might close down, because when the CEO says that kind of thing to the mayor, it is not exactly saying, hey, we are expanding within your community. It is saying the opposite of that. All right, let's keep going. You know what? I want to watch this video. Yeah, we know Santa Monica has had its issues with shoplifting, with homelessness, with just absolute, nut jobs running around. But let's see if that comes up in NBC's video at all, right? Just watch this. It's as if they have no clue why this store is closing down. It's like, I don't know. It's the greatest store ever. I don't get it. Here we go.
Location in downtown Santa Monica is officially closing its doors next month. The store sits inside the Santa Monica Place Shopping Center. NBC4's Camila Rambaldi joins us live from Santa Monica with reaction from business owners nearby and what this means when it comes to vacancies in that area. Camila.
Hi, Annabelle. Yes, this store has been at this location here for over a decade. A Nordstrom spokesperson says the last day of business will be August 26th. It is still not known what will come next. I spoke with some business owners in the area, some calling the announcement devastating for Santa Monica. For the last 15 years, this Nordstrom on 220 Broadway has been greeting locals and tourists, people in the community calling it an anchor of Santa Monica Place.
I come here and I shop. I buy things.
The 3-level store that's been here since 2010 is shutting its doors next month. The retailer announced the closure on Monday.
I'm very annoyed, frustrated, disappointed, and mad. I don't want them to leave. Back where I'm from in Texas, a lot of department stores are closing due to just less people coming in.
A statement from a Nordstrom spokesperson to NBC4 reads in part, "We believe we'll be best able to serve customers in the area by leveraging our surrounding stores and through our digital channels. Decisions like this are never easy, and we understand the impact they have on our team members. We are committed to taking care of our employees through this transition." Across the street, business owners like Miriam Amid on the 3rd Street Promenade sharing their reaction.
It is sad because we
needed something like this high end.
She tells NBC4 during the pandemic, there were a number of stores that closed in the area. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
More than they open. They are closing at fastest speed than they are opening.
Despite the closures,
unfortunately, I'm not surprised about Nordstrom.
Some say there are new businesses coming to the area too.
There have been a lot of vacancies. This block is recovering. These places are mostly leased and under construction. We're starting to adjust. It's going to take some time.
Back here on Broadway, people now wait to see what will replace this iconic location. What would you hope to see here?
Nordstrom stay.
A statement from the...
I mean, do you see where I'm going with this? There is zero accountability for street conditions. There's zero accountability for why this Nordstrom is closing. You notice when the interviewer, the guy with kind of the short, dark bob haircut, can I say bob haircut? Is that okay? Or is that, yeah, with the shorter haircut? When she asked something specific, it just all of a sudden cut away from why it doesn't surprise somebody that it's closing. There is zero self-accountability for why Nordstrom is closing. And everybody knows it. It's safety issues. It's shoplifting and safety issues. Because otherwise, they wouldn't close. Right? There's a million people walking around. There's a million people. But, other stores are closing at a greater rate than they are opening. So why? Why don't you just address that? Why don't you address that? Because then you'd have to actually take responsibility for, well, how did we get here? What happened? Why are there homeless running around everywhere? Why are there people running around with knives, machetes, whatever, dudes without shirts on, no shoes, just absolutely screaming at the clouds, running into the store, weird stuff going on, shoplifting on the regular. Why are we talking about that? Instead, we just focus on, I'm not really sure why Nordstrom's is closing. It's such an interesting phenomena. It's just, they don't want to admit that Nordstrom is a massive target and it's being hammered on. And yet that is the end result. So end result, that's what happens when you've got a store in a tough area. How about this headline here? This is another one. Group of thieves target Nordstrom in River North. That's Chicago. Everybody knows you can make good money stealing from Nordstrom. So you got a group of thieves, and that is on the regular that happens. Okay, so now I'm gonna shift gears here. Angry and frustrated, Kent mayor issues statement criticizing Fred Meyer closures. So there's 6 stores closing. We've got one down in Kent, which is in the hood. Terrible. You've got one up north, Lake City Way in Seattle. Yeah, not great. Got one in Redmond. That one to me is probably more of a demographic. There just aren't enough shoppers right there. And you've got some homeless issues. You got some safety concerns there. And then you've got a handful of other stores in the area that you're like, okay, yeah, you got one up in Everett, which is not a great location. But the one in Kent, the Kent mayor issues a statement. Kent Mayor Dana Ralph released a statement Tuesday criticizing Kroger's plan to shut down several grocery stores in the area due to crime. Now, the big story with Kroger is they came out and said, this is due to crime and shoplifting. Kroger has confirmed that 5 Fred Meyer stores will close in Puget Sound. Fred Meyer released a statement claiming theft was a driving factor behind the decision to shut down its Washington stores. Washington state is one of the most unsafe states in the United States, has the highest levels of criminal activity. On a national basis, crime levels are declining. In Washington, they are going up. That is what happens when you have got progressive liberal leadership that doesn't really, they pay lip service to public safety, but the bottom line is they are taxing the heck out of businesses and they don't provide, basic safety factors at street level. you got people running around stealing all over, and you've got all kinds of criminal activity going. And that doesn't scream out to people, hey, let's go out and go shopping. Instead, people can dial up on their phone like I've been doing, because I got a wedding to go to and I got to get a bunch of stuff. I got to get a handful of neckties to kind of see what works with my suit. I am the officiant at a wedding, so I got to buy a bunch of stuff. I've been doing almost everything online to kind of get ready for this. I'm not going into a store unless I have to. And then I'm going to Nordstrom today, to get just I got to get an outfit for the rehearsal dinner. So that's what we're doing. Fred Meyer is proud to serve communities around Washington. Unfortunately, due to a steady rise in theft and a challenging regulatory environment that adds significant costs, that is Washington State. That's Washington State. Regulatory environment that adds significant costs. We can no longer make these stores financially viable. Therefore, closed. Despite doubling our safety and security investment over the past years, these challenges remain. Okay, so here's where the mayor of Kent, Ralph, addressed the city of Kent's steps towards reducing crime and enhancing safety within its jurisdiction, claiming that the rate of crime has slowed down. Kent has been loud and forceful in shifting our state legislature to public safety first agenda. Frustrating as that is, because we are seeing improvements in crime trends, calls for service at the Fred Meyer location have declined. In the absence of statewide support, Kent took proactive steps. The good news is that it's been working and we're seeing a decrease in crime across our city. But the problem is that the damage has been done. And from a historical standpoint, and that is what insurers look at, Kent is not where you want to be running your business. That's what they've come up with. And if you have to whack a bunch of stores, because in the case of Kroger, they had a massive merger between Kroger and I think it was Albertsons. It didn't work out. So they gotta cut some losses. And they're going to cut the ones that have the historic trend. Maybe things have gotten better recently. But if you've got 4, 5, 6 years since the pandemic that have gone sideways on you, that's what you're going to point to. If you are a store owner and a CEO, you're going to look at that and go, well, this is the one we closed down. And it's unfortunate for Kent. It's unfortunate for all the other stores, but they're doing it based on a reason. And at least Kroger comes out and says, here's the reason. It's one of two issues, right? Got a bunch of shoplifting, safety concerns, and you got regulatory issues where the store just can't make money. So we're cutting it closed. We're closing up shop. And then you've got mayors just, basically screaming, why can't you stay open? One other headline I want you to read. So, can't keep our staff safe. Meals on Wheels closes downtown Portland site due to safety and funding concerns. I'm going to do a full podcast on that. But if Meals on Wheels can't stay open in downtown Portland, how exactly do you expect Nordstrom to stay open? Right? Doesn't take a genius to, put the pieces of the puzzle together to, do whatever it needs to have it make sense. Meals on Wheels, deliver you free food. Nordstrom, high-end retail. How is Nordstrom still operating in Portland? Don't know, but expect that closure to happen anytime now, I think, in my opinion. All right, that's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. We'll see you then. Bye for now.